But my dear madam, I assure you I have had nothing to do with that. I hope I am properly grateful and all that you see. Oh, it isn't you, she explained patronizingly. It's those Ouija board. So here, as you know very well, we are seeing the discussion between the narrator and one lady who appeared all of a sudden there, and already the narrator understood that it is none other than a ghost. So the ghost explained so many things about the strike, what they are going to conduct and all. This man clearly stated that he is no way connected to that. And here now the lady started explained. So what is she explaining here? She patronizingly means supporting in a narrow minded. So the lady is supporting that in a narrow mindedness, supporting with a supporting, patronizingly she is supporting. It's those Ouija board. So I think to what extent you students know about Ouija board. So how many of you have played the spirit game? I don't know, but if you have such experience, people will sit with a board where they'll put one coin and they'll put the fingers on the coin and they will move the coin towards the alphabets what all written on the board. The words what they pick up, they feel that it is a message given by the spirit to them. So this game is played on a board named Ouija board. Fanatics. So there was a time when we had nothing much to occupy us and used to haunt a little on the side purely for amusement. So when these ghosts, when these spirits have nothing to do, they simply used to haunt. Haunt means going here and they are going to a particular place without any break. They used to do that only because of amusement, means for the purpose of entertainment. We have had to give up haunting almost entirely. We sit at a desk and answer questions now. So now what the spirit is telling, what the ghost previously they used to haunt here and there, means they used to roam here and there for the purpose of amusement. But now these ghosts have also become very busy. They are sitting in one place near a desk and they started answering the questions asked by different people. And such questions, she shook her head hopelessly and taking off her glasses wiped them and put them back on her nose again. So she is telling, see, she is giving expressions also here, the ghost, not simply talking. See, I think many of you have the habit of watching movies. Do you watch movie? So generally, if you have the habit of watching movie, just imagine any scene from your favorite movie where a doctor is coming out of an operation theater and expressing their regret. What they will do generally in the movies, how they will show, just the doctor will remove the spectacles. By cleaning their spectacles slowly, they will express their view about the patient, whether it is hopefulness or hopelessness. Here also the ghost, so what is the expression she is giving here? She is telling that we'll answer the questions of different people sitting near a desk. She, while telling about this, she removed her specs and she started cleaning the specs and she was telling we'll answer such questions. She gave a great expression there while mentioning about different types of questions they answer. But what have I got to do with this? She gave me a pitying look and rose. So she removed her specs by cleaning. She said different types of questions we answer. Telling like that, she kept her specs again on the nose. And this man questioned her. What did he question? But what have I got to do with this? So the man is asking, what should I do with that? What is your job? Why are you telling me? Why are you explaining me? What am I going to do with your job? This is a very big question what the man got on his mind. And he is asking the lady, what should I do with your job? What am I going to do with your job? She gave me a pitying look and rose. So she gave a pitiful look towards the man when he questioned like this. You ought to exert your influence. Get all your friends and acquaintances to stop using the Ouija board, and then we'll start helping you to write. So immediately she gave one advice to the man. What did she say? You ought to exert. What is the meaning of the word exert here? E-X-E-R-T. Exert means put. So you have to put your influence. You should use your influence. So for what purpose this man is supposed to use his influence? Get all your friends and acquaintances to stop using the Ouija board. So she is telling that you call all your friends, and even the acquaintance means the people whom you know very well. Ask them to stop using the Ouija board, and then we'll start helping you to write. So this lady has asked a favor to the man. What is she asking? You do one favor to us. The people who are calling using the Ouija board, ask them not to call us, as we are becoming very busy, because whenever they call we have to come to that place, we have to roam, we have to haunt that place. So if no one call us using the Ouija board, we will be sitting in one place near a desk, and we'll start answering the questions asked by different people. So the help what you have to do is to ask all your friends and acquaintance, means the people whom you know very well, to stop using the board. Then simultaneously I will help you in your writing. This is the proposal kept by the lady ghost to the narrator. But there was a footstep outside my door. So when the lady is telling like that, all of a sudden the narrator heard some footsteps outside the door. That means he heard that someone is coming towards the room. John, oh John, called the voice of my wife. So who is coming towards the room? It is none other than the wife of the narrator. So how is she coming? Calling John, oh John. I waved my arms at the ghost with something of the motion of a beginner when learning to swim. So immediately, you know very well, see here the ghost is a lady. Only the narrator and ghost are there in the room. And who is coming towards the room there? The narrator's wife. And the narrator doesn't want his wife to see one lady in his room. That's why immediately he started waving the hand towards the ghost, asking her to hide somewhere. So he is waving. The comparison happened here. The way he waves his hand is compared to the person, the beginner who is learning to swim. Initially when you are learning to swim, how you try to wave your hands. In the same way, this man also waved his hand as if he is a beginner of a swimming. He is a beginner to learn the swimming. Like that he waved his hand towards the ghost, just indicating her to hide herself. Why the narrator want the lady ghost to hide here? Because as his wife is coming over there, and he doesn't want his wife to see one more lady in his room. Madam, I must ask you to leave, and at once. Consider the impression if you were seen here. So immediately after the signal, he started directly asking the lady to disappear from that place right once, immediately. And he doesn't want anyone to see this lady there in his room. The ghost nodded and began very sensibly. I thought to demobilize and evaporate. First the brogans on her feet grew misty until I could see the floor through them. Then the affection spread to her knees and gradually extended upward. By this time my wife was opening the door. So what happened? When this man requested the lady ghost to disappear, the ghost nodded her head. She accepted and began. So she started disappearing. As you know very well, how she appeared there? All of a sudden she did not appear. Part she appeared there. Means all the body parts did not come at a time. Slowly, first few parts of her body appeared, next few parts, like that, part wise she appeared there. Now also disappearing also started in the same way. I thought to demobilize and evaporate. Means he thought that to dissolve, to evaporate completely. First the brogans, means the ankles will disappear. On her feet grew misty until I could see the floor through them. So on her feet the mist got appeared as it became very transparent, that he is able to see the floor through his feet, through her feet. Then the affection, means here affection means condition, state of being affected. Spread to her knees, means slowly from the feet the effect, means the way of disappearing came near her knees and gradually extended upwards, means from bottom slowly she started disappearing. By this time my wife was opening the door. So how is he explaining the disappearance of the lady? Goes there from downward, slowly she started disappearing, and when this disappearance moved towards, up, in up direction, by that time already the narrator's wife came near and she is about to open the door. Don't forget the strike, she repeated, while her lower jaw began to disintegrate, and as my Lavinia crossed the room to me and last vestige of her ear faded into space. So before getting disappeared, the ghost, she asked the man not to forget about the strike, and slowly her face also got disappeared. By this time the narrator's wife, and what is the name of the narrator mentioned here? It is my Lavinia. Lavinia is the name of the narrator's wife. She entered the room. By the time she entered, so everything got disappeared into space. John, why in the world are you sitting in the dark? So the wife immediately after entering into the room, she questioned her husband, why are you sitting in the dark at this time? Because see, he did not switch on the light. It is already mentioned at the beginning of the story that he did not switch on the light. This lady appeared, and from then onwards he got involved in the discussion with the ghost lady. So he is sitting in the dark as this lady, means the narrator's lady, came there into the room. She did not find any other person there. She saw only her husband. So she questioned him. What did she question? John, why in the world are you sitting in the dark? She questioned John, why are you sitting all alone in the dark like this? Just thinking, my dear. So when his wife entered the room and questioned him what in the world made him sit all alone in the dark, he just gave a reply to his wife telling that he is just sitting and thinking something. Thinking rubbish. You were talking out loud. So here this lady is so alert. So she is telling, thinking rubbish, don't lie to me. I heard you talking aloud. I remained silent while she lit the lamps, thankful that her back was turned to me. So this man, he knew that he was talking aloud, and he knew that he is talking to a lady, and he doesn't want his wife to know that. So he remained calm. He did not give any reply, because as his wife had already heard that this man is talking, so that confidently she mentioned that this man is talking loud in the room, sitting all alone. So he don't want to create it as a problem. That's why he remained calm, and he is thanking God that the wife stood her back towards this man so that she cannot see the facial expressions of the narrator. When I am nervous or excited, there is a muscle in my face that starts to twitch, and this pulls up one corner of my mouth and gives the appearance of an idiotic grin. So far I had managed to conceal this affliction from Lavinia. So this man had a problem, the narrator. So whenever he is so excited or nervous, there is a muscle in his face which pulls one side of his mouth. So that means it gives a different idiotic grin. Grin means it's a smile. Laughing foolishly is a grin which won't look good, means for the people, other people to look into his face, it won't look. Until then he was trying to conceal, hide this nature, means this behavior what he had from his wife, and now he had fear. So that's why he's thanking God, so that his wife is turning to other side. You know, I bought the loveliest thing this afternoon. Everybody's wild over them. So the wife is telling, as it is already mentioned by the narrator earlier, that she has a habit of purchasing everything. She spends money lavishly for purchasing all the new things what all appear in the market. So the same nature we can see here. What the narrator's wife is mentioning here, she is telling, you know, I bought the loveliest thing this afternoon. She is telling, see, whatever she purchased, that is the loveliest thing for her. She likes it very much. That's why she spends money on unnecessary things also in the point of view of her narrator. But that lady, she will never consider like that. So she is mentioning that she has purchased a loveliest thing. Everybody is wild over them. She is also mentioning that everybody likes this thing very much. I remembered her craze for taking up new fads, and a premonitory chill crept up the back of my neck. As this man is very well versed with the nature of the lady, he understood. It isn't. I began and stopped. I smiled, couldn't ask. The possibility was too horrible. You would never guess in the world. It's the duckiest, darlingest Ouija board, and so cheap I got it at a bargain sale. Why? What's the matter, John? So this man, he doesn't want to go into any sort of argument with his wife, but she's not stopping. She's going on telling. She's telling that she has purchased a Ouija board for at the cheaper rate. I felt things slipping. Now he understood. See what happened, the previous lady ghost, the lady spirit, what is it asking him? Not to use the Ouija board and not to allow any of his friend and the people whom he knew very well, make them not to use the Ouija board. But what his wife is telling here, that she has purchased the board as she is getting it for the cheaper rate. Nothing, I said, and looked around for the ghost. Suppose she had lingered and upon hearing what my wife had said should suddenly appear. Like all sensitive women, Lavinia was subject to hysterics, means sudden outburst of emotions. This man, he got fear. He started fearing, as if by listening to the words said by his wife, is the ghost came back, means reappeared. So he is looking around to see whether he can see the ghost again, because already the ghost gave a warning to him not to use the board, and his wife came there and she mentioned about the same board there. But you looked so funny. I always do when I am interesting. I gulped. But don't you think that was a foolish thing to buy? So finally he was dare enough to mention that it is a foolish thing to buy such a board. Foolish? Oh John, foolish. And after me getting it for you. For me? What do you mean? So she is telling, foolish? Why are you considering it as a foolish? I purchased the Ouija board for you. So this narrator did not understand now. For me? For what purpose you have purchased? In what way I can use the board? Is a question arised in the mind of the narrator. To help you write your stories. See how concerned the wife is. She knew that her husband is a great writer and he will be suffering a lot whenever he writes the new story. So to help him, she purchased this board. Now she is explaining the reason behind her purchasing the Ouija board. Why, for instance, suppose you wanted to write an historical novel, you wouldn't have to wear your eyes out over those musty old books in the public library. All you would have to do would be to get out your OSA and talk to Napoleon or William the Conqueror or Helen of Troy. Well, maybe not Helen. Anyhow, you would have all the local color you would need and without a speck of trouble, and think how easy writing your short stories will be. Now see how concerned the wife is. She is telling that why she has purchased that OSA board. She is giving an advice to her husband, telling that next time whenever you sit to write historical stories, no need to run your eyes to the musty old books to collect the essence of the stories. Instead of doing that, you just take out the board, OSA board, and call some great conqueror or some king, and from them you collect the story and you can write your stories very easily without any problem. That is the reason why I purchased this board for you. See how smart is the narrator's wife. Very apt explanation she gave, and the reason behind purchasing the OSA board is very apt in her point of view. But Lavinia, you surely don't believe in OSA's boards. So he is telling that how can you believe such things? You shouldn't believe such board. I don't know, John. They are awfully thrilling. So she is telling that no, they are really greatly. So much of thrill is there behind the board. She had seated herself on the arm of my chair and was looking dreamily across the room. I started and turned around. There was nothing there. I sank back with relief. So far, so good. So telling like this, she sat on the arm of a chair and she was looking around the room. Immediately this man got frightened. He also looked around the room thinking that if the ghost had reappeared or not. And when he observed that no one else is there in the room, he also took some comfort. He also got relaxed. Oh, certainly, they are thrilling all right. That's just it. They are a darn sight too thrilling. They are positively devilish. No, Lavinia, you have plenty of sense and I want you to get rid of that thing just as soon as you can. Take it back and get something else. So now he got relaxed and he is trying to convince his wife. As you all very well know that this man, he doesn't want to use that OSA board, considering the instructions what he received from the lady ghost. So what is he telling now? Oh, certainly they are thrilling. Alright, he also accepted. He is just pretending as if he has gone into his wife's way. So he said, yes, it is thrilling. That's just it. They are darn sight too thrilling. He is telling that yes, it is very much thrilling. The sight of the board itself is very much thrilling. They are positively devilish. Means it is so of devilish, means devil type things what they will do. Now Lavinia, you have plenty of sense. I want you to get rid of that thing. So he is telling, so you are a sensible person, you have plenty of sense. So now what I want you to do, you should get rid of that OSA board. Take it back and get something else. So he gave a suggestion to his wife, telling that you return the board back to them and take something else instead of that OSA board. My wife crossed her knees and stared at me through narrowed lids. John Hallock, she said distinctly, I don't propose to do anything of the kind. So she got a bit of anger. So she got angry and she's telling that, John Hallock, I'm not going to do anything what you are telling me. In the first place, they won't exchange things bought at a bargain sale, and in the second, if you aren't interested in the other world, I am. So she gave two reasons why she doesn't want to exchange the board. The first reason what she mentioned here, the place where bargain things are sold, they don't take it back. Means there is no question of exchanging the bargained things. And the other thing is, she is telling to her husband, if you are not interested in the other world, I am very much interested. So there, and she slid down and walked from the room. Before I could think of a single thing to say, she walked very huffily. Huffily means in a bad temper. So here the word So Afili means the word gives in a bad temper. She moved from the room with a bad temper. So she did not give any chance to her husband to think and say a single sentence. She said what she had in her mind, and she moved from that place in a bad temper. Well, it was like that all the rest of the evening. Just as soon as I mentioned Oza boards, I felt things began to cloud up. So I decided to let it go for the present in the hope that she might be more reasonable later. So that evening, the whole evening, they were in that mood only. He did not mention anything. He said, okay, let the things go on. After some time, she can understand, she can think in a reasonable way. Considering like that, he remained calm. After supper, I had another try at the writing, but as my mind continued a perfect blank, I gave it up and went off to bed. So after the supper is the last meal of a day, evening time they will take, so the people will have their supper. After the supper, he sat again to write something, but his mind is totally blank, that he did not get any new idea. Finally, he gave up the task of writing and he went to bed. The next day was Saturday, and it began near the end of the month and a particularly busy day. I left home early without seeing Lavinia. Understand, I haven't quite reached the point where I can give my whole time to writing and being bookkeeper for a lumber company does help with the grocery bills and pay for Lavinia's fancy shopping. So as the next day is a Saturday, Fridays they will have only half days. This man is working with a lumber company, means it's a timber. So he is working as a bookkeeper in a timber company. So he will get, means at least the money what he earns, he can pay the bills of Lavinia, shopping and all. Friday had been a half holiday, and of course when I got back the work was piled up pretty high. So high in fact that ghosts and stories and everything else vanished in a perfect tangle of figures. So as Friday they have half day holiday, Saturday by the time he come to his office, there is a lot of work for him to do. So all the ghost stories, everything got vanished from his mind. So that he got involved in his work so much. When I got off the streetcar that evening, my mind was still churning. Churning means producing. By the evening when he started back, he got into the car and still his mind is thinking. I remember now that I noticed, even from the corner, how brightly the house was illuminated. But at the time that didn't mean anything to me. I recall as I went up the steps and opened the door, I murmured, 9 times 9 in 81. So here, see, by the time he reached his house, it's totally illuminated, means so much of lighting, everything is there. He did not make it a note. He went there, he knocked the door, and 9 times is counting 81. And then Gladolia met me in the hall. So Gladolia is the servant maid. She came and she met him in the hall. Mr. Hallock, dear Mrs. Shue think you has lost. She says she done phone you this morning to be home early, but for the Lord's sake not to stop to argufy now, but get ready for the company and come on down. So she is telling the message what is left to him by his wife. So the servant maid is telling that today morning your wife called you asking you to come to home early. So in a bit slang way she mentioned these sentences. Some memory of a message given me by one of the clerks filtered back through my brain, but I had been haunting 3 lost receipts at the time and had completely forgotten it. So when the servant maid mentioned about the message left by his wife that day morning, the clerk brought that to his notice. But at that time, this man is very busy in searching the 3 receipts which he lost in the office. So in that mode, the message got totally vanished from his mind. He has totally forgotten the message what is left by his wife. Company, I said stupidly. What company? The Mrs. Ojua boat party, said Gladolia, and rolled her eyes. She disappeared in the direction of the kitchen. So company means he did not understand. So there is some party in his house and he did not make a note of that. So servant maid said that it is the Oza boat's party. Telling like that, she went into the kitchen. I must have gone upstairs and dressed and come down again, for I presently found myself standing in the dimly lighted lower hall, wearing my second best suit and a fresh shirt and collar. But I have no recollections of the process. Finally, he went into his room. He dressed himself in the best, one of the best suits what he has, and he reappeared there. There was a great chattering coming from our little parlor, and I went over the half open door and peered through. So from one of the room he is hearing a lot of chattering, means talking. So finally he went near there and he peered, looked into the half of the open door. He looked inside. The room was full of women, most of them elderly, whom I recognized as belonging to my wife's book club. So when he peered into the room, he observed that the room is completely filled with the women, and they are also from the book club of his wife. They were sitting in couples, and between them couple was a Oza board. So how the people in the room are sitting? They are sitting in couple, pairwise they are sitting, and in between them there is a Oza board. The mournful squeak of the legs of the moving triangle things on which they rested their fingers filled the air and mixed in with the conversation. Since there is a board, a triangle way, they are keeping their fingers on the board and they are sitting there, and they got involved in a deep conversation. I looked around for the ghost with my heart sunk down to zero. What if Lavinia should see her and go mad before my eyes? And then my wife came and tapped me on the shoulder. When he saw this all people sitting like that, immediately he searched for the ghost around, imagining if his wife sees the ghost, what the behavior, in what way she behaves. When he is imagining like that, one hand tapped him on the shoulder. He is none other than his wife. John, she said in her sweetest voice, and I noticed that her cheeks were very pink and her eyes very bright. My wife is never so pretty as when she is doing something she knows I disapprove of. John dear, I know you will help us out. Mrs. William Augustus Wainwright phoned at the last moment to say that she couldn't possibly come, and that leaves poor Laura Hinkle without a partner. Now John, I know some people can work a Oza by themselves, but Laura can't. She will just have a horrible time unless you. So finally the narrator's wife came to him, and she is looking so pretty with a good smile on her face. So whenever she appears, whenever the narrator's wife knew that she is doing something which her husband doesn't like, she tried to pretend, means she tried to influence him. So then only she appears so pretty. When this man is thinking like that, immediately the narrator's wife mentioned to him, requesting him to give the company to one of the lady, as the another lady who should be the company to the present lady dropped at the last moment. So she requested her husband to give the company to the lady who is waiting there. Me, I gasped, me won't. But even as I spoke, she had taken my arm, and the next thing I knew was sitting with the thing on my knees, and Mrs. Laura Hinkle opposite, grinning in my face like a flirtatious crocodile. So here, as he is telling no, she took him and made him sit there with the other lady, and he is in the place to play the Oza board with the other lady. I won't, I began. Now, Mr. Harlock, don't you be shy. Mrs. Laura Hinkle leaned forward and shook a bony finger almost under my chin. I'm not, only I say I won't. No, it's very easy, really. You just put the tips of your fingers right here beside the tips of my fingers. And the first thing I know, she had taken my hands and was coyly holding them in the position desired. She released them presently and the little boat began to slide around in an aimless sort of way. There seemed to be some force tugging it about. I looked at my partner first with suspicion and then with a vast relief. So before he could realize what is happening there, his wife took him and made him sit with the lady, and the lady requested him that it is not that difficult. So the lady herself took the hand of the person and made him put his finger near the tip of her finger, and they started playing. When he could realize, before he could realize, the game started there. The boat started moving. The coin started moving there. If she was doing, so he did not understand. Without applying any force, the coin is being moved. He thought that someone might have applying the force. Then all that talk about spirits. Oh, I did hope. Mrs. Laura Hinkle was cheating with the board. He is thinking that without applying any force, how the coin moves, he is thinking that this Mrs. Laura is cheating the board. Ouza, dear, won't you tell us something? She cooed, and on the instant the thing seemed to take life. So immediately she started requesting the board to tell something. So then this man realized that the thing started taking life. It rushed to the upper left hand corner of the board and hovered with its front leg on the word yes. Then it began to fly around so fast that I gave up any attention to follow it. My companion was bending forward and had started to spell out loud. Traitor. Traitor means anti-nation. Why? What does she mean? So before he could realize, or before the narrator could pay any attention, the coin started moving, the boat started moving towards yes, and from there one after the another letter it started showing, and finally the word came. What are the letters mentioned here? Traitor means traitor. The meaning of the word is anti-nation. So it started, and what is the meaning? What is the meaning of that? She questioned. I don't know, I said desperately. My collar felt very tight. But she must mean something. Ouza, dear, won't you explain yourself more fully? So she questioned what is that, and this man replied that he doesn't know anything, and he started sweating by that time. So immediately the lady questioned the board itself to explain that fully. ASKHIM. Ask him. Ask who? Ouza. I am going. I choked and tried to get up, but my fingers seemed stuck in that dreadful board and I dropped back again. So the Ouza board asked, means again they got a word to ask the Ouza board. This man felt it meaningless, so he wanted to move from that place. But when he tried to move from there, he observed that his finger got stuck up to the board, and helplessly he cannot move there because his finger has already stuck up to the board. He remained there itself. He sat back there itself. Apparently Miss Hinkle had not heard my protest. The thing was going around faster than ever, and she was reading the message silently, with her brow corrugated and the light of the hunters in her pale blue eyes. Why, she says it's you, Mr. Harlow. What does she mean? Ouza, won't you tell us who is talking? I groaned, but that inexorable board continued to spell. I always did hate a spelling match. Miss Hinkle was again followed it aloud. H-E-L-E-N, Helen. She raised her voice until it could be heard at the outer end of the room. Lavinia, dear, do you know anyone by the name of Helen? But the name of, I can't hear you. And my wife made her way over us between the book club's chairs. You know, the funniest thing has happened, she whispered excitedly. Someone had been trying to communicate with John through Mrs. Hunt's and Mrs. Sparkle's OSA. Someone by the name of Helen. So finally, when they are receiving these letters and they are combining into the words, this lady questioned the OSA board that who is that trying to talk to them. Finally, they gave the spelling H-E-L-E-N, Helen. So she shouted aloud Helen, asking the Lavinia, does she know anyone named Helen? So Lavinia came running there, and finally they came to a conclusion that a person named Helen is trying to talk to them through OSA board. Why? Isn't that curious? What is? Miss Henkel simpered. Someone giving the name of Helen has just been calling for your husband here. So from another board, one lady called Lavinia telling that a person named Helen is calling your husband. She wants to talk to your husband is the reply what they got from some other board.